worst. Like, we complain about how cold it is, and then it's hot for one day, and we're like, oh my God, I can't.
Yep.
And it's not even really hot.
No. It's going to get hot in this room, but it's not hot in general, no.
No. We have one day that was like 87.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everybody in Florida is like, yeah, that's what it was in January.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Outside the Cinema, your weekly source for cult movie discussions. We're your hosts, Bill and Chris. We've been here for 16 years plus.
Yeah.
Still doing it, man. Still doing it. Weeks like this are okay, though.
Yeah.
We have Patreon picks from Andrew. And he picked two very different types of films, which is nice. I like when I do like when our Patreon picks are like kind of like a theme. But sometimes it's nice to just kind of have two random things.
Yeah.
So this week on the show, we are covering the 1989 joint production from a bunch of companies, but based out of Germany. Eis ist nicht leicht, ein Gott zu sein. Hard to be a god, which we covered the Russian 2014 version as a Patreon pick either earlier this year or late last year. Apologies, I don't remember who was picked and I didn't have it here in front of me. But Andrew was like, I think you guys should cover this one because it's a very different take, and it'll be interesting to kind of see you contrast them.
Yeah.
And I've never read the book, so I can't comment on that.
Me either.
And the other flick we are doing this week, we had made the joke. I don't know if it's really necessarily a joke, but we had made the mention that every time one of our UK listeners gives us films, they just kind of give us like super depressing.
Yeah.
Like The War Room and Threads, and like I'm like, is there such a thing as like a fun British movie that like
it's not Monty Python?
That's not Monty Python and not the IT crowd.
Yeah.
Like, but he gave us Brian and Chrarles.
Yep. I had never heard of that at all, ever.
Neither had I. It is a Welsh, right? It's from Wales, right?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it is. Kind of oddball comedy / dramedy.
It's a lot like that one with the dude that loved the trains, and he built the escape car.
Okay,
the dude looked like Sam Neill, and he wasn't. Martin?
Yeah, that was Australian.
Melvin?
Martin.
Was it Martin?
No, that's the George Romero
I know.
movie.
Huh. I'll find out.
Maury?
It's something. It's just his name, right?
I think so.
I'll find out. I'll just yell a name.
We're doing those two flicks this week. Two very different ones. Like I was saying to Chris before we start, my allergies, man. Like 2 Zyrtec a day. Like I am
Malcolm.
Just in utter Malcolm.
There we go. It feels a lot like Malcolm. Not exactly the same, but it's tonal. I think it's about the same.
That's fair. That's fair. Also similar to like Lars and the Real Girl.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Or Her.
I have not seen Her.
You've never seen Her? I actually enjoyed it. But in that kind of like quirky comedy, but also like drama, and there's also some sci-fi brought into it also.
Okay.
You
were saying your allergies. Yeah,
my allergies are awful. Like if you're watching the video feed of the show, I think we're actually up on YouTube this week. We're streaming on YouTube if I'm not mistaken. If you look at the video, just like look into my eyes.
Oh. Yeah, you look beat. I don't normally tell people they look tired or whatever, but you actually do.
Yeah, that on top of and the other thing is my allergies are crazy, and I'm coaching way too much baseball, so I'm outside all the time.
Yeah. Oh.
Which normally I'm all about, but this year, man, like oof.
Yeah.
Oof. All right, hey, we're doing Patreon picks this week. So if you're not a member of our Patreon, please consider joining it. We'll cover movies for you. We'll cater shows to what you like. We will take pretty much any and all requests. You can go patreon.com/outside the cinema, join the community over there. We did get, I think, a couple of more requests for films next week.
Okay.
Let's say here. All right, Howard wants us to do Story of a Junkie.
Okay.
Which I am not familiar with. And something called Spider Labyrinth?
I was going to say that sounds familiar, but then my brain said, nah, you never heard of that.
And he also put in the request for Horse Girl, which was the Alison Brie flick from
the Netflix one.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Is it worth covering, or should we go with Story of a Junkie and Spider?
Well, Spider Labyrinth looks like a giallo / horror, and it appears to be Italian, so probably that one.
Okay.
And what was the other one? Story of a Junkie?
I mean, it could mean anything.
That's true. Could be a speed junkie. It's not. It's heroin. 1985. Vinegar Syndrome's put out the disc. Those two sound pretty good. The other one,
all right, cool.
The other one, yeah. If we need a light, well, it's not actually that light. Yeah, we should do it anyway. But these two first, since he put these two first.
Do these two first. Okay. All right. So that's what we'll do next week. We will jump in on more Patreon picks. These ones are from Howard, Story of a Junkie, or Spider Labyrinth for next week. If you are one of our members, please feel free to send us films for us to cover. We're keeping up with them pretty good this year. It seems like we're getting a couple requests each week as we kind of finish the previous ones. So it's pretty good. Patreon.com/outside the cinema. Join up, $5 a month, $10 a month. Whatever you do goes right back into the show. Keeps the show alive, pays for our internet costs, pays for equipment fees, all of the fun things, the software that we use riverside.fm. If anyone is interested in getting a free trial of that, let me know. I can send you a link for it. And if you decide to sign up for it, I do get a kickback for it. So it's great software, and they just rolled out a whole bunch of new updates. Okay. This is not a sponsored poster, a sponsored episode or anything like that. I just truly think that the software we had issues with it when we first started using it, but they've done a really good job, I feel, of continuously upgrading it and updating it and making it work. Like they recently introduced all the AI show notes, which we started using, which I'm going to be honest, they're not great. No. But they're more than what I'm going to put into it. So if it's not quite right, it's still more than you're going to get than if I do it, because half the time I don't even do show notes. I just put this week we cover this film and this film, and that's all we do. So they at least give you a little bit of an insight, but they've got all these great different AI tools they're using now, and then auto editing that will basically take the whole show and take out all the pauses and the ums and the ahs and all that stuff that we used to spend hours doing back in the day.
Yeah, and then
I don't use most of those tools.
And then real quick, we all realized that doing the ums, taking them out was just a waste of time.
Yep. I haven't done it in many years.
Take out the big ones, big pauses, or whatever. But yeah.
No editing on the show. But now that we have these tools at our disposal, I'll probably start using them. Yeah. So, but yeah, there you go. I don't think there's any other. I don't have any. Don't forget to leave news. We're waiting on a whole bunch of film festivals to get back to us.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We should be able to get right. And obviously, Scott and Joe will be back at the end of the show.
Yep.
We should get started. I feel like hard to be a god is probably going to be a little bit more of a lengthy conversation. So we're going to start there. I'm not going to play a trailer because the trailer that I found was all in German and of very poor quality. Not that I would have a problem playing a German language trailer, but it's not going to give you guys anything because most of you guys listen in the audio format anyway. So, but Hard to Be a God, 1989, directed by Peter Fleischman. I looked at his back catalog, didn't recognize anything. Right. Looks like he did some German TV and a number of German movies, but never did anything that really broke out of Germany. So Jean-Claude Chrarles, him and Pierre Christian did the screenplay, but it is based on the novel by Elkady Stuzgate.
Okay.
Stuzgate. Yes. and Boris Stugatze. They did so we had covered the very long, bleak, dark, dirty I think it was 2014 version.
Yeah.
It was a Russian-made version. It's a Russian novel of the story Hard to Be a God.
Yeah. And that version gives you dysentery when you watch it.
It really does. This one is so different that it almost is hard to even recognize them as the same story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost a comedy in comparison.
God, yeah, man. We have covered a lot of dark, bleak films in our time, but that Russian version, not only was it, 3 hours and 20 minutes or whatever it was, excruciating to get through, but also just like depressing and dark and dirty. And essentially, this is a sci-fi story.
Right.
And watching that, you would never know.
Nope. You'd have to know the story going in. That's it. That's the only way.
Yeah. There's some subtle nods to what the characters are. So you do get like the basics of the story. But in this version, which came in 1989, so a number of years before that version, they really lean into the storytelling aspect of it.
Yeah. And
it's still kind of dark and dank and like dirty, but like they do a much, much clearer job of telling the story.
Yeah. This is the kind of story I would expect after reading the description of the book. It's the story, the plot itself isn't, but the movie is straightforward and it does exactly what the description says it should do.
Yeah, so IMDb's synopses here. Another planet in the period of medieval times, an employee of the Institute of Experimental History from Earth, who is sent under the name of noble Don Rumata of Estor as a spy with a mission to contact the local residents of the Institute. To contact the local residents for the Institute. Arrives in the city of Aknar, but the resident perishes under an unlucky attempt to make a palace coup, and Rumata is set to take his place as the resident. Soon, he meets all the horrors of the medieval society, peasant, war, palace coup, mass executions, and he is forced to continue to being an indifferent watcher of all these horrors, and it just simply turns out to be impossible for him. Yeah. So, again, we're going to kind of compare and contrast these two a little bit. That Russian version, 3 hours plus. This one, hair over 2 hours. Still long, but much, much more manageable.
Mm-hmm.
That one was filmed in a very high contrast black and white.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was filmed in that, but it was presented in a harsh, high contrast black and white. This is in color. It is much more linear in its storytelling. It's much more standard in its filmmaking presentation.
Yeah, it's not trying to be obtuse or shady with anything. You know what's going on after a certain amount of time. Like, what, 25, 45 minutes, something like that?
If even that, yeah. I'd say, like, you're kind of dropped into the world to start and not given a whole lot. But they go, and unlike in the Russian version... So the story of Rumata, he's a space traveler that's come from Earth. So we are led to believe that this takes place far in the future. They found this other planet that is basically kind of like a model of what Earth is, and they are in what they're considering to be their like medieval times. So they are studying the people that live there.
Yeah. Now, I have one point of confusion because I haven't read into it at all. We'll just watch the stuff. So are these aliens or are they humans? Because if they were
I guess
humans, wouldn't they just...
Well, they're not on Earth.
Yeah.
So they're aliens.
But the human isn't on Earth either.
Right.
So
none of them are on Earth. The whole thing takes place on this other planet.
So this is basically like parallel evolution where they develop
essentially.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's what I thought. As
always, we can just compare it to an episode of The Simpsons and remember when Lisa created her small colony with the soda and the tooth.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's the same size as them, though.
Oh, the Renaissance era. So yeah, Earthlings, humans have traveled to this other planet. They are in the city of Akara, and they are observing. They've put spies, not necessarily spies, but observers into the society to act as part of the society, and they're observing their growth and so on and so forth. In the Russian version of this, none of that is presented.
No.
We get a couple of things where things are said so that we know the main character is from somewhere else and may be from another planet.
Yeah.
A tiny bit of dialogue is really all we're given. In this, we get spaceships and lasers and
Oh yeah. Yeah, they didn't, well, I mean, this is going to be true and false. They didn't cheap out on that part, but they did.
They did and they didn't. Yeah, you're right. But some Ramada comes in as a high class, well-educated man.
Looking like Christopher Lambert from fucking Mortal Kombat.
Or any number of the Highlander characters.
Yeah, or many elder wise ones from Shaw Brothers films.
Also, potentially Battleship Earth, just without the large foreheads.
You ruined it.
I did. That's what I'm here for. But he's like an educated warrior, high class, knows many things.
Yeah.
And he's observing, but he's also now, becoming friendly with people and building these relationships. And then we have these number of times where he has these like meetings with whoever like is his like I guess the person he reports to. I don't know, boss would be the right word, but
it looks like it looks like a Max Headroom type situation where he has a controller that will advise him or at least watch over his thing, but then he's got his Murray that's over him, that's running the whole operation. So it's a very easy dynamic to get right away.
And their technology has them set up so they can see everything that he's seeing through his eyes. They're able to observe somehow with.
I did read one thing. There's a camera surgically installed in his eye, like VHS.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Sure,
I'll take it. And the story is really just him, building these relationships and then living in this society, but also then trying to better the society. But he's like very specifically instructed to not interfere.
Yeah, it's a prime directive dealio.
Because the technology could change everything. They use the spaceship and they have a helicopter that they use and like they painted it up to look like a dragon. So like when it flies, they think it's a dragon flying around because again, medieval times, nobody has seen any of the technology. So they're not going to know what it is. Right. They get a light in the sky. They think it's, God coming down to them or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, he builds these relationships. There's of course, overzealous religious figure that is like the head of the religion for the kingdom that they're in, and he's doing his best to grab as much power as possible. Yeah. To the point where you have a very ridiculous king figure.
Yeah, Russell Brand.
Essentially,
he looks just like him.
He really does. He really does. And he's like manipulated by these guys. And then you get a whole bunch of characters that kind of come in. There's the female that's like his maid.
Yep.
That helps him, but he's more caring than all of the other guys. Like he's they very much hammer home the like. You could just say one run thing and be killed.
Right. And he's more from a place where it says that they got rid of emotion. They didn't really, but they've learned how to control them better. So, but with that control comes empathy, and that's nothing that's on the face of that planet. It's very much, you get in my way, I'm going to fucking eat you. And probably there was some cannibalism in this that I didn't notice. So. But yeah, it's does civilization make you civilized? I think is one of the questions that they're proposing here.
Right. So this film again, is just presented so differently than the other one. I was reading some reviews that kind of compare the two of them, and this one review that I read was that the 2014 version is an art film that concerns itself more with its feel and its ambience, but makes it kind of inaccessible to somebody that's not a film fan.
Yeah. It's a lot if A Field in England was 3 times longer than it is now. Yeah, that's a tough watch, but I enjoyed that one. But anyway.
But this is a much more viewer-friendly version of it, while still I felt holding a lot of what the other version was trying to give you, but it just presented it to you in a way that you could take it in so much easier.
Yeah, it didn't revel in its disgusting nature as much as the black and white one. Ugh.
It's really interesting to think about it in the way of like, which is a better film? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because there's
not to get ahead of ourselves here. Like, I feel like this is a more enjoyable experience, but the other one is a better like film.
It's better made, but that doesn't always mean that it's the better.
Yeah, better is a tough word to use because the other one looks incredible and you feel everything and you feel dirty after watching it, and like this doesn't really make me feel like that, but the story moves along so much smoother and you know what's going on. It's the type of thing where like they're just so different that it's like, I don't know. What do you think in terms of like them being the same story?
I think it's fascinating to see what the different filmmakers focused on. And it seems like the Russian one focused on the human nature of the whole thing. And I got more of a feel that the power corrupted him more in the Russian one than in this one here. He was still kind of true to his nature and his values until he couldn't be, or he was forced not to be. In the other one, he just kind of fucking flopped around the whole movie. And I didn't like him. I didn't want him to succeed. I didn't care. But it's a fucking amazing accomplishment to put on film. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. If somebody said, what kind of what's a high level of movie that we would review, that it would definitely be mentioned in that. But lowbrow, I don't think this version necessarily that we're reviewing now would come up unless it was about remakes.
It's a far more pedestrian presentation.
They wanted to make money with this. That's what happened.
Yes and no. It's a more enjoyable movie-going experience, but it's not something that I'm going to remember.
I will remember it in conjunction with the other one.
Yes, right. But when I think of them, I'm going to think of the other one, because the other one, it feels as though the way that they are presenting it is a much more timeless type of presentation. Be it it's only like 10 years old, so it's kind of tough to say that now. But like this feels like 1989.
Oh yeah, it looks like it. The film stock looks like it. The costuming, all of it. It just has that early 80s feel, even though I know it's later 80s, but it's got that.
Right, but it's later 80s Germany, so it's a different.
Right. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting things going on. I really liked when we kind of started to get towards the tail end of it, and the Ramada character, he can't kind of like take it anymore, and like he takes the weapon, his the modern Earth weapons, which is like a laser gun or whatever.
It literally looks like a phaser from the Star Trek movies.
Yeah, uses that to like help get his friends released from like being captured and stuff. And then we see like the reason why we don't let them, like they shouldn't know about this technology because one of the other guys gets his hands on it and just starts shooting everything with it.
That's the message of the film. That's why you can't do it. You can't give a gun to a monkey in Planet of the Apes. You know?
Right. Yeah. No, that's actually a really good comparison.
I mean, what was the first thing our government wanted to do when the atom was first split? They wanted to blow shit up. Yeah. Not power, not like electricity, but political and military power is where everything goes into weapons. That's a huge like almost subgenre of sci-fi is what happens if the wrong people get the wrong weapons. And that's what it was going for. In part, there's other things too, but yeah.
And we also get Werner Herzog shows up at the beginning of is one of the scientists that gets imprisoned because he's too smart.
Yeah,
literally, they put him into prison and then kill him because he's too smart. Yeah. He's bringing ideas that shouldn't be brought.
Because it's still a very superstitious time.
It is. And I actually like that presentation of it in this. It was clearer. Everything was clearer in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel like this film has a more optimistic, bright feeling to it, whereas the other one is just doom and gloom from the first frame to the final frame.
Yeah, the black and white one doesn't look like there's any success in their missions, but this one you get a glimmer of hope that maybe what they're doing is done with the best intentions, even though it might not work out.
Yeah.
The other one, it just seems mean. It's like the Devils, but angry.
So angry.
Yeah.
Anything else before we want to grade?
I don't know. No.
Okay. All right, Chris. Hard to be a God, 1989. Eis ist nicht leicht, ein Gott zu sehen. Do you recommend it? What is your grade?
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend this. I also think that it's really good to watch both. I would watch the other one, the black and white one, first if you're gonna do that, because it would be more of a shock going from this one to the other one. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'll recommend it, and I'm gonna go with I'm gonna give it a B+. I didn't have any issue with this.
All right.
Not really, except the Russell Brand looking guy that was scared of everything, but that's how the king was supposed to be, so it was fine.
Yeah, it's really that interesting scene when they bring the doctor to him and he's like, my knee hurts. You need to fix my knee.
Oh God.
And he immediately he takes the medicine, and it wasn't medicine, they poisoned him. It doesn't make a difference. But he takes it and he's like, my knee still hurts.
Yeah. The makeup on that job was really good. The infected, it was his whole knee, not just a part. It's like he knelt on a tack and it just got worse. And that was pretty effective. I like that.
Okay. I'm recommending it too. I am. So different than the other version.
Yeah.
But I think they surprisingly would work well together. Again, I think we said this when we talked about the Russian one. It is incredibly long. It is incredibly dark. It is incredibly dirty. And it is a chore to get through. But if you consider yourself as I do the quotes, if you consider yourself a film fan, it's an art piece that I think deserves to be watched. Whether you like it or not is almost inconsequential to what it is.
Yeah.
This one, not so much. This one you can watch as a sci-fi action film.
Yeah.
And, and I'll use action in quotes. But it's its storytelling is clear. It's linear. It is, clean to look at in terms of the way it's shot. It's a completely different type of presentation. Whereas the other one is shown as dark, wet, dirty, and muddy. This is out in the desert.
Yeah.
Which is so funny to me that one version is muddy and mossy and gross, and the other is dry and hot and But either way, I think it's pretty good. I won't give it quite a B plus. I'll give it a B minus. It's good. It's not great.
Mm-hmm.
And it has aged kind of poorly. Also, not necessarily that easy to find. I think you can rent or buy a copy of it on Amazon, but it's not available streaming anywhere.
Yeah.
So
it will be at some point.
Yeah, somebody else will buy the rights and put it into a pack of a bunch of films and it'll show back up. So there you go. Hard to be a god. Next, Andrew's pick of Brian and Chrarles. I do believe I have a trailer on this one.
Thing is amazing is Chrarles.
You built my body.
I built his body. My name's Brian. This is my infamous inventions pantry. It's actually a cowshed. Things went a bit topsy-turvy in my life and I was very alone. Ah, fiddlesticks. That's when I just started making stuff. Any little idea I had, I just made. It's an egg bell, pinecone bag, flying cuckoo clock. So whenever anyone in the village wants to know the time, they can look up in the air and I'll be there. Get back! It's on fire! They don't always work, and the stuff I build isn't for everyone.
Well, I'm impressed.
Thanks. My new project, I'm building a robot. Didn't look too bad, does he? I wonder what he'll do when I turn him on. You'd like me to give you a name? Tony? Charles?
Charles.
Charles?
Charles.
You like that name, do you?
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Charles. It's lovely to meet you. This is incredibly overwhelming.
Imagine me and you, I do.
I never thought I'd make anything as amazing as Charles.
You built my body.
I built his body.
And my tummy is a washing machine.
And his tummy's a washing machine.
So happy together.
You should show him to people. Why
I
not?
should call you up.
How much you want for him? Oh, he's not for sale.
And you say you
Why are you wearing that?
I feel pretty cool, man.
Imagine how
I want to go on an adventure. Everything is lovely.
so
It's not all lovely.
Stay down, boy.
There's a big old world out there. A big, perilous world.
Oh my gosh.
okay.
What was that?
It's okay.
Perilous. So
Just
very
birds.
perilous. I want to sit in the front, Brian.
No, you're not sitting in the front. You're sitting in the back.
I will sit in the front.
You'll sit in the back.
Front.
Stop saying front.
Front. Front. Front. Front.
I've never met anybody that could build a robot.
we're happy together.
I'm not a child. I can look after myself, man.
What's got into you? I tend to learn from each thing that I build. Bullseye!
I am your friend, Brian.
I'm your friend too.
I want to go to Honolulu.
Charles, what are you wearing?
It's my Hawaiian hula skirt.
What is?
All right, Brian and Chrarles from 2022. This is a new flick directed by Jim Archer. So Jim Archer is a fairly up-and-coming director. He did a short version of this, which then he wrote a full-length screenplay and made the full-length version of it. He also worked on a series called Big Boys, Young Offenders, and Down from London, which he also, I believe, did a short and then turned into a series. So Jim Archer, interesting filmmaker. So far with the stuff he's done is interesting. This is a cool film.
Yeah.
In the way that it's presented, in the way that it's brought, because it's brought in a mockumentary style, which kind of comes and goes at points. And it's kind of hard to tell when it's mockumentary and when it's not. But it's done fairly well in terms of like, you're not really questioning it. Like,
Yeah.
I only questioned it once or twice, and it was kind of like, well, he hasn't like referred to the cameras in a while, and then he reversed the cameras, and I'm like, oh, okay, so we're still going.
Yeah. I never doubted that there was somebody there, because some of the other people, you'll catch a glimpse of them here and there, just like looking over at the camera, like with this look on their face, like what? So,
Right, yeah, because we don't really know who Brian is. We just know that he is this inventor who's kind of sad and lonely at home, and makes all these like ridiculous inventions. So like, why there's a film crew following him around and filming him? I mean, it doesn't really make any sense. But a lot of stuff in this movie doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of like, all right, you're just gonna go with it.
Yeah, because this is a fairy tale.
Yeah.
So logic doesn't have to come with this one, I think.
Correct. So we got David Earl, who plays Brian. Don't recognize a lot of stuff in his stuff here. A lot of TV work in the UK.
Yeah, I looked him up, and
oh, he was in Rovers. I watched Rovers.
The first thing when I saw him, because I say this here and there that we watch a lot of British TV now instead of American TV. Mm-hmm. So my first thought was, "Holy shit, is that Joe Wilkinson?" Oh, it's not Joe Wilkinson. All right, fine. So I looked this guy up, David Jeffrey Earl, and like the second sentence in his bio is Earl also works frequently with comic Joe Wilkinson. Together, they co-wrote and starred in the sitcom Rovers and the comedy series The Cockfields.
Nice. He's also he was also one of the writers on this too. So
yeah.
Chris Hayward is, I don't know is Chris Hayward the voice and also Charles in the box?
I think he was the one in the box. I don't think he was the voice, but he could be, because now you can imitate that. You don't have to type it out on a computer and record it from there.
True. Very
and
true.
I can't find anything on him at all.
Yeah. Yeah, me either. But so like we meet Brian, and he's got all these like really just like lame inventions. And he's like a dreamer. He's a dreamer is what it is. But he's, they talk about how they had a really bad winter. He's just bummed out. He's sad. He's lonely. So they're following him around. He finds some different things, and he decides to take the things, put them together, and build a robot.
Yeah, he's just inspired by whatever he finds, and he just rolls with it. He's like the ultimate. What is a reed in the wind is what Bruce Lee would have said, right? He just bends and goes with it.
He's like water.
Yeah.
So yeah, he decides to build this robot. We don't really get any insight on like the mechanical makings of it, because I was a little surprised because they made him out to be kind of like a bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
And so he builds this robot without any real, from what we can tell, technical know-how.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's so goofy looking. It's just a mannequin head.
Yep.
On top of a washer machine. And then we don't even know what the legs and the arms are made of, because
he's got legs.
Yeah, he's just got legs and he's got arms.
Yeah.
But it
looks like the other stuff he made. So if it's just like, oh, okay, yeah.
Like it almost looks like a person.
Yeah.
So he tries to turn it on, it doesn't work, and he's bummed out about it. So he goes to bed, and then he gets up, he hears this noise in the kitchen, and the robot's now functioning.
Yeah.
And it's trying to make cabbage.
Yeah.
I also found it interesting that he continuously feeds this robot, but yet it has no need to eat.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the robot Charles basically is doing what he can to function as a human.
Right.
So it's dinner time. So he sits down and he eats dinner, but he doesn't actually eat dinner.
Right.
So he meets Charles, and Charles is very much in charge. No, I'm just kidding. So they introduce themselves to each other. He names him, and they become fast friends because Charles wants to learn, and he wants to learn anything and everything he can.
Yeah.
And he very quickly outgrows the small farm that Brian lives on.
Yeah, because this is just an allegory or a metaphor for having kids. It's much. Pinocchio. It's all of it. It's before you know it, your kids are going to be 16 years old, and there you go.
Ready to go, even if you're not ready to let them go.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Brian's watching TV, and he sees they a travel show, and they're talking about Hawaii, and so he wants to go to Hawaii, and Brian's like, you can't go to Hawaii. But Brian never tells him like you're a robot. Everyone's gonna you can't. It's actually kind of weird because he's like super protective and doesn't want anyone to know about him or anyone to see him. But at the same time, when people do see him, nobody really seems all that fazed by it.
No.
That's
part of
interesting.
The fairy tale thing, because nobody freaked out when Pinocchio was walking around. It was just, oh, hey, look at that little dude. So I think that's, it removes a huge part of the movie you normally have to do if everybody just accepts him as just another guy, because that's all he wants to be, and everybody's already treating him that way, except for the antagonist. But yeah,
one of the reviews I saw for this basically was like the robot Chrarles is Frankenstein mixed with the Iron Giant with a touch of R2D2 and C3PO tossed in for fun.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So we also have the neighbor Eddie and his two bitch daughters. And we learn that Eddie's just is a bully because they're a little town. It's a little town. There's like one little store, and he's bullying the girl that works in the store, and then he bullies Brian in the store, and all this kind of weird stuff. So he takes Chrarles out to the town one day, and the two daughters see the robot, and they tell Eddie about it. So they come to the house and are basically like, "Hey, what's going on with this thing?"
Yeah.
And then the two daughters are like, "Well, we want it." And so he's like, "All right, I'll just buy it off him." And he's like, "Well, it's not for sale." And he's like, "All right, I'll give you $55." He's like, "What? No." So Eddie is your bad guy, your typical bully, and he is there to basically play the part to let Chrarles know everything is not safe out there.
Right.
Because he comes and he takes Chrarles and then basically uses Chrarles to do work, and then he's just going to burn him. Apparently, they just have this giant burn pile.
Oh yeah, it's the bonfire. It's like the big thing everything's leading up to, like the big party, isn't it?
I bet it's really good for the environment.
I don't know. The ash could be, right, but not the plastic.
The plastic and all of the other random shit that they're burning in it.
Mm.
So I mean, it's not a deep story. And then, obviously then, Brian, gets a love interest, and Chrarles likes the love interest, but Chrarles wants to go off on his own. It's the allegory, as you said, sending your kids off to college or whatever.
Yeah. The nice thing was that the girlfriend wasn't an issue. It wasn't like, oh, well, look, I'm a human adult sized robot. I like her too. And that wasn't a thing. That was very much Brian's thing. And he was like, "You're a nice person. How are you doing? I'm Chrarles." And that was good.
Mm. I will say this. If I'm, what's the cinematographer's name? Murren Tullett did the cinematography in this, and I want to go visit Wales now. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Gray and wet, but lush, green, beautiful, gorgeous. The little towns, there was a couple shots. There was one shot where they were shooting the town, and there was like this nice river coming down next to the town.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, this looks unbelievable.
Yep.
I think I want to go visit there.
Yeah. And then the weather turns a little bit, and you're in an A24 movie and dead.
Right. Fair enough. I like the music. It was kind of like if Danny Elfman was like an EDM DJ.
Yeah. Yeah. It was nice and cool. Light and hopeful. The whole thing's kind of hopeful.
The whole thing is very charming.
Yeah.
That's the word I kept thinking, charming, as I was watching it. And not to blow the ending or anything, but it gets a nice, good, satisfying ending that you would expect.
Yeah.
And then your nice kind of heartwarming conclusion, and you maybe shed a half a tear because it's just sappy enough, but not too much.
Right.
And it moves by very quickly. It was I think barely 80 minutes long. What else? What am I missing?
There was a point where I'm watching this, and my kids and I have been talking about what they can adapt into a stage play, and I thought this would make a really good stage play, because all you got to do is get a dude in a cardboard box with a mannequin head, and there's a lot of funny parts you can do when they're laying in bed the first night. They're each in their own bed, and he's like, "Chrarles, can you turn off your blue eye?" "No, I cannot do that." And then you see from outside just this bright blue in the bedroom, and he just goes to sleep. It's like, okay, you can't do that. That's fine. I thought I'd ask. And it's like so many little things. And if you do adapt it to be on the stage, you can cut out the the car chase, and just have it be done a different way. But anyway, that's beside the point. But what I'm saying is, like, this could be a family movie if your kid's like,
well, it's only rated PG.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
I don't check ratings anymore because I don't have to.
I just happened to notice that it was rated PG because I watched it on Stars and it popped up at the beginning.
That's good. It should be.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, the little things is what makes it so good. Like, Brian very much, like, anytime Charles is like, well, I want to go to where and I want to go to here, and he's like, you can't. He's like, you can't. Stop asking. Like, but he doesn't, like, he's not like, if you go there, people are going to try to kill you.
Right, because
like,
he doesn't want to take his innocence away.
Right.
Yeah.
But then at the end, again, just like the kid going off to college, like, it's like, all right, you're going to go to these places and you're going to enjoy yourself. And
he doesn't go with them.
Yeah.
Because
got to do it on your own.
It's not his journey to take.
And he said, doesn't he say that? He's like, this is your trip, not mine.
Yep.
So it was very sweet. All around.
Yeah.
All around. So, yeah. All right. Let's give it a. All right, Chris, Brian and Charles, do you recommend it? And what is your grade?
100% am going to recommend this. And I mean, we just praised the thing for a few minutes there, so I'm not going to go with more. But I'm going to give this just a straight middle of the road A, because it was very surprising. It was very sweet, and I think I'm getting this nice collection of quirky feel good movies. And I don't mean quirky in like a Zooey Deschanel kind of way. I mean like an Eagle versus
quirky like
Shark.
Saint Maud.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a story about one person unsure of themselves. But yeah, I think like Eagle versus Shark is one that this could go with, and Malcolm definitely. Like there's a nice history of these kind of movies, and this fits in well with them. I was actually happy I watched this.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I can't always say I'm happy to watch anything, so.
Good point.
Not if you pick it.
I seem to be batting better than you recently, so.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend it also. It was quite good. And I do love when someone will recommend us something that I'd never heard of, and we watch it and we're like, and it actually like stands up to the reason somebody recommended it. It's good. It's funny. It's sweet. It's sad at points, but it's kind of one of those, like, I don't know if it's like life reaffirming. Well, no, I guess it kind of is, because it shows that even though this guy had this terrible winter and he's sad and he's depressed, he brings Brian into his life, and then he meets the girl, and like it all works out. And it's kind of a nice kind of little, not necessarily metaphor, but like a way to be like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Right. Like right now might suck.
Right.
But 6 months, it could all turn around.
Yeah. I mean, the dude was in a convenience store with shoe trawling nets, so he could do that while he walks. And then, he's got a family by the end.
Yeah.
Nothing he ever was looking for. So, yeah.
So I will give it in terms of a grade. I'll go B plus A minus. It's very good. It's very good. Not the type of film that I would rewatch often, but I would gladly rewatch it if somebody else was like, oh, let's check this out. Yeah, I'll rewatch it.
Yeah.
For sure. So, Andrew, good picks this week, man. Really good job. You get an A for effort. Speaking of A's for effort, do we think Joe's going to give a high grade this week?
Wait, what is he doing?
Shit, I can't remember. Let's just play it.
Yeah.
Well, hello, Bill. Hello, Chris, and hello, OTC Nation. Your boy Joe here, and you know what it is. This week, Bill took me back to the woods because he made me watch Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. Texas Battle. Take 2 seconds and see if you can figure out what the fuck I'm talking about here.
Getting a reservation at Texas Roadhouse.
2002. It's some poor schmuck's name, you guys. In a world where people are free to name their child whatever the fuck they want, and only about half the time is that a good idea, this guy's parents named him Texas Battle. I'm sorry, Mr. Battle. CCH Pounder called and said that she's upset with you that you have a name that sticks in one's head as much as hers. Mm-hmm. Moving on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this might be the first movie I've reviewed for OTC that was directed by Joe Lynch.
Probably.
In addition to having parents who understood the power of a conventional name, I dig Joe Lynch and his work. He's a genre director who, gasp, actually likes genre films. Bullshit. And it shows. Plus, how many people can say they kicked off their directing career by directing a music video for Strapping Young Lad?
Good point.
All I can say is welcome to the club of directors who've had their movie made fun of by me, Joe. You'll get your membership pamphlet in the mail soon. I'm not sure how I've never seen this before. And let me tell you something, brother. There's a lot of factors here that makes this one of the most how have I not seen this before movies I've ever seen before. I think that made sense. Number one, as I mentioned, I like Joe Lynch and his style. Mm-hmm. Number two, as mentioned last week, I have owned this on Blu-ray for the better part of 6 years. I bought it while I was Xmas shopping, and I saw like a multi-pack Blu-ray with the first 5 Wrong Turn flicks, and it was like $15, so I said, fuck it. Like, this thing's literally been sitting on my shelf for over a half a decade. And 3, I dig this style of horror. Give me your 2001 Maniacs. Give me The Hills Have Eyes. Give me High Tension and your Motel Hells yearning to be watched. Okay, I've either had too much or too little coffee. Let's just hit play. Oh, boy, was that a perfect way to start would you call this a slasher film? I don't know. It's the perfect way to start this particular horror movie. There's a vapid Hollywood girl driving through the woods on roads in the middle of West Virginia that are suspiciously well paved. Mm-hmm. She's distracted driving on her phone. And she hits one of the hillbillies, and to her credit, she stops and tries to help. For her trouble, she gets her bottom lip bitten off, and then she gets axed life's most important question, which is how much guts are in the human body.
Mm-hmm. Enough.
She is split vertically, and it's such a good shot of 2 of our antagonists each dragging half of her body away. It's such a good camera shot, and the gore is really good, and there's more guts in the human body than actually splatter onto the road, but it's still really cool and effective. My only question is, did we start the movie with our goriest and coolest kill? I hope not. So she was on her way to film a Survivor-esque reality show in the wilds of a state where you don't own any mineral rights to property you buy because there's money to be made, and fuck you, that's why.
West Virginia?
Seriously, Google that. West Virginia is a fucked up state for property stuff.
How did I know that?
Again, they just nailed it with establishing these characters quickly, establishing that they are all varying levels of pieces of shit, and establishing our obvious final girl. Sometimes by the numbers works, and it's how you build around that framework of the numbers that matters. Also, Henry Rollins is here, and I'm sorry, that's always a good thing. I always want to watch Henry Rollins. He treats everything he's in as if it is important and not a joke.
Yeah.
Even if it is a joke. Cut to maybe 3 minutes later, and hey, everyone, do you remember when I was all excited that Henry Rollins was here?
Oops.
Yeah, well, that was premature. Like, we don't see him die, but he's not having a good time. Hopefully they do the old, oh shit, he's still alive near the end of the movie. Fingers crossed, because so far he's the only sufferable human being in the entire movie. So far, that's the only thing I'm knocking this movie for. There's making characters unlikable to the point where I don't care when they die versus making me root for the family of inbred cannibals. Speaking of, 2 of the girls run across the family cabin and witnessed one of the mutated hill folk giving birth to something. I got distracted, though, because if these people are just living in the wild woods of West Virginia in a cabin with no power and they're all wearing rags and all that, why does this backwoods monster girl giving birth have perfectly smooth shaved legs? Like when the camera is shooting it, it was literally distracting. Where I'm like, for an inbred bumpkin living in a wood cabin in the middle of the woods, like,
yeah,
I don't know. She's got a good
perfect
razor. Anyway,
take me right
I've
out.
been having a hard time finding things to joke about in this movie, and it's hard because while it's absolutely straight to video quality, this is fun and it's well paced and it's gory, and then they did it. They did it and it worked and they got me. The girl set up to be very, very obviously the final girl just got iced a little past the halfway point of the movie. Like the timing of it, the shot, like she's walking through, she's got this like camera thing strapped to her head because they're doing their, survival reality show. And then she just gets axed in the head, and it's beautiful and it's gory. And boy, was it well done. Story, yada, yada, yada. Everyone gets their backstory told, and suddenly these people are a little more sympathetic, and hey, Henry Rollins is still alive, so that's a plus. Also, it turns out that the old man from the gas station in the first movie is the patriarch of this backwoods clan, and I really hate how much he looks like a lot of people I see at work on a weekly basis, and fellas, I wish I was joking about that. This place isn't that much more rural than where I live. I don't know of any inbred families in my area, but boy, you never know. There's a big old final fight at the sort of warehouse/mill place where the family keeps all the cars and the stuff they get from the victims. And it's honestly pretty rad and good. And let's just get to the thing, because I'm sorry. It's really hard for me to be funny about a movie that I'm enjoying this much, and it's making me a little bit mad. I pride myself on being able to make pithy little jokes about movies, even if I like it. Here's the thing. Oh, wait. Before the thing, if you want to see how close real life can get to this movie, go ahead and go to the Soft White Underbelly YouTube channel and check out the Whitaker family. Or don't. Maybe retain a little bit of happiness in your life.
I'll do that.
Here's the thing. The good. This did exactly what a horror sequel should do. They expanded the story, but not so much that a part 3 isn't needed or welcomed. They really upped the gore and the kill count and like how cool the kills are. And they added Henry Rollins. The bad. For the first half of this movie, it's on par quality-wise with like a rushed, cheap, straight to Sci-Fi Channel made-for-TV, way on the cheap movie. It's not all bad, but it's a bit of a just wait, it gets better kind of situation. Like the first half hour of this movie, you're like, okay, I know what this is. And then it gets better. Boy, did I enjoy this way more than I thought I was going to. I'm going to bring back grades and give Wrong Turn 2 a very solid B+. Like, I don't know if or when this series will fall off a cliff. I'm sure it will.
Oh, on the next
but
one.
it certainly didn't here. I'll be back next week with Wrong Turn 3, Left for Dead. Until then, I'm sorry I wasn't funnier or angrier or pithier this week. Until then, be good, everyone.
I very much remember enjoying the shit out of Wrong Turn 2 and being shocked because we didn't really know Joe Lynch then. It wasn't his first flick. His first flick was shit. What the hell was his first movie? We were just talking about it.
Don't know.
Doesn't matter. But yeah, like very good sequel because it was done the right way by smart people that like knew what they were doing. So. Yeah. All right, let's see here. We got Reverend Scott. Where are we? Where are we? Reverend Scott. There it is. All right. Download. I'm not as prepared for this as I would like to have been, but we can play it now. Scott and Joe take notice. July 19th till probably the beginning of September. We won't be recording weekly, so I know, Scott. Sorry, I'm gonna have to make you work. You know, I love how much you like to complain about me putting you to work, but I'm giving you 6 weeks to plan. So
first of all, I require 6 months notice, so this isn't going to work. And B, now that Bill is having surgery in a couple months, Chris is feeling left out.
I want a neck lift.
What? I know a guy.
Not that guy with the rope.
What?
Yeah.
I lift your neck right off your shoulders.
Shit. Yeah.
With Reverend Scott.
Colorectal excursion.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott.
He's 80s simple, is what we'll call him.
Yeah.
Are you sure you figured out who I am? Because I'm much more simple than that.
I actually thought I had figured out who it was, and I was not correct. So it surprised me, that's a
I
huge
did figure
plus.
out who it was, and I was correct.
Well, it doesn't really matter now because I've been monkeying around at the movie theater lately and I saw a new movie. But you just keep reviewing all these damn old shitty films that I have to rate you on, so we got to do that shit first. Hope you don't mind.
It's fine.
Because first we got
1986's The Majorettes,
which is a somewhat unknown 80s slasher, I guess. Tell me about it.
The film starts out, how did it fucking begin? Hang on.
That sure helps. Can you remember anything about it?
Girls well into their late 20s pretending to be high school students.
Yeah.
I mean, I can dig that at least. You know, I had assumed this killer would try and kill the Majorettes all at the same time. But if you listen closely to the trailer, it may suggest otherwise.
One by one by one.
One by one. One by one.
One by one.
Did you catch it? Probably not. He said he kills them one by one. But I don't even know why I'm bothering to discuss nuance when you guys couldn't even understand the movie title.
Why the fuck is this called Majorettes? Doesn't make sense.
Bill then went on to explain how the Majorettes reminds him of his penis.
I understand why this was forgotten for a long time and why we have not seen it pop up.
Well, that's sad. What else was sad about it, guys?
45 minutes into this movie, they show us and tell us who the killer is.
Well, that's embarrassing. But maybe you forgot who it was by the end. Hell, you couldn't even remember the movie title.
Let's remember, this movie is called Majorettes.
Indeed. And I give Remember the Majorettes a B for innovation. And the review gets a C+ because you couldn't even remember what the fuck you were doing.
We're doing Drive-In Massacre.
I thought it was the Majorettes.
Okay, we're not talking about that anymore.
Yeah, let's move on to another movie then. It's some sort of murder at the drive-in movie with weirdos. People are losing their heads over it.
The first one's a decapitated.
Ah, yes, the decapitation.
Yep.
But I don't want to dwell on this one too long. It was a little too weird. There was descriptions of people that sounded like it was really just Bill talking about himself. And right now I have plausible deniability about any murders that may or may not have been committed. Plus, Bill luckily denied it.
Listen, I didn't kill anyone. I just like to beat my meat.
Now that we have that legal disclaimer out of the way, is there anything else you want to say to support this movie before I give it my grade?
It's frustrating and it's annoying and it's cheap and it's lame.
I give Drive-In Massacre a D+, and the review gets a B+, because you definitely did not kill those people, Bill. Wink, wink.
Hey, shut up!
So due to the massive success of my previous recommendations,
I'm really glad that Scott introduced me to Dream Scenario so much that I included it on my top 10.
Oops, clip just kind of cut off there randomly. Anyway, I wanted to do a new recommendation. And like I said, I was monkeying around at the movie theater last week, and I saw another movie that I can introduce Bill to. It's called The Fall Guy. Ryan Driver Gosling, Emily Edge of Tomorrow Blunt, and Hannah Ted Lasso Waddington, followed in briefly by Kick-Ass himself, as well as a few other brief but impactful cameos. But no spoilers here, those are very much worth the surprise. So if you've seen the trailers for Fall Guy, then you know exactly what it is. Kind of, because it's kind of like a mystery movie wrapped up in an action movie injected with a love story. Ew, I said injected. Anyway, just in time for guys that take their gals to go see, including Bill and Mel, but only because it was my recommendation.
We saw The Fall Guy, and it was excellent.
Ryan Gosling is there shirtless for the guys, and Emily Blunt is looking pretty for the girls to oogle, and the stuntmen get to do a shitload of stunts. There's some amazing stunt work in this, as you might have been thinking.
That's better than I was I was thinking.
The story puts this capable stunt guy Gosling into demanding situations he wouldn't normally be in real life.
It is wacky the way the storytelling goes in this movie, man. It is wacky. But at the same time, it ain't bad.
That is a good point.
It ain't terrible.
That is a good point.
It isn't terrible.
This usually includes a lot of funny banter. Hell, even when it's just him and Emily Blunt, it's usually funny banter. Now, the mystery part of the film is, I don't know, a little thin. Gosling is framed for a crime he didn't commit, but since this is the Hollywood industry, they do a few things with surveillance video that were fitting and quite cool, but also a bit scary, including some face replacement.
Oh my God, it's old man Crabtree.
Made me wonder if this is what some conspiracy nuts feel like every day.
Like, is that what it feels like for other people? Because I'm like, wow, I'm really sorry. That sucks. Like, so silly.
Gosling is the stuntman for Tom Ryder, who is like The Rock and Tom Cruise rolled all into one. Only he has long since decided that he's too good to even show up for work. Gosling has been off the stuntman scene for a long time after a bad back injury resulted from one of his major stunts. So there's a bit of drama when he returns to see his long-lost love Emily Blunt directing the film. And now he's trying to find out what happened to the star Tom Ryder and potentially save him from a weird gang of guys he's gotten involved with.
Why were all these gangs so weird?
I don't know.
The setup is fun. There's a real reason for him to return because he doesn't want Emily's first time as a director to fail, and the execution works well. The movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and it all makes sense how it plays out by the end. Sure, it can be a little bit hokey.
This just looks like a bad Monty Python movie.
Maybe not that hokey, but it is a bit tongue-in-cheek at times. But that's what makes it fun. I think if you like action and your significant other likes the love story stuff, this movie will work well for both of you. I recommend The Fall Guy to Bill and also the other people listening, and I give it a B+. And on that note, I better get going so I can plan out exactly how we're going to do these surgery shows without me putting in any effort.
We can do it all with robots and lasers.
Whatever the fuck that means. But make sure you join us next week on Outside the Cinema when Bill is yet again an asshole and hates everybody.
Well, I'm an asshole and I hate everybody.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, he wants Chris to be the same.
You know, he wants you to be an asshole. Okay, I can do that.
All that and so many more assholes. But until then, peace and love, guys. Holy shit with Reverend Scott. Disappointing Chris for nearly 15 years.
It should have been just butts and topless women, and it really wasn't.
Why did we just spend 15 minutes on this?
I know.
There it is. All right, another show. Good job. I already forgot what we said we were going to cover, but I said it earlier in the show.
Spider Labyrinth and something else.
Tales of a Junkie.
Yeah.
Diary of a Junkie, something like that.
That junkie one, I think it said it was on Tubi.
Sounds about right. Hey guys, if you'd like to follow us a little bit more, you can follow us on Instagram at OTCBill and at Cthulhu. You can follow our Facebook group on Facebook. Just go to group search Outside the Cinema. Join the Patreon at patreon.com/Outside the Cinema. Suggest us some movies if you're a member over there and haven't already for this year. Go for it. It's cool, dude. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. All right? That's pretty much all we got for this week, everybody. So enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the nice weather if you're living in a place that has it. And, yeah, we'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Games.